So, Steve, you came to the Okanagan in 1996. Tell us how you got here. Tell us the story.
Well, the relatively short story actually was I had a uncle that purchased a steel manufacturing plant here in the Okanagan back in the Western Star days.
Wow.
And I knew nothing about steel manufacturing. Nothing. I was selling furniture at the time, and he said, "Steve, I'd like you to come to the Okanagan Valley and run my sales organization in Penticton." And I've never been to the Okanagan before, ever. Didn't even look at pictures. I never knew it existed. My family never really went on vacation. And the only question I asked is, how much does it pay? And he said, told me the number. And I'm like, I'm in. When do you want me there? Yeah. And I literally packed up a U-Haul truck, arrived at night, rented an apartment over the phone, arrived at night. The next morning I woke up, looked outside, and I'm like, oh, this is a pretty nice place. Wow, yeah. So literally, moving from Alberta, that was a big deal. And never really looked back since.
And what part of Alberta were you in?
So at that time I was in Calgary, but I grew up in a small town east of Edmonton called Cold Lake. Mm-hmm. There's a large Air Force base there. My family was in oil, and I grew up in the oil business there. So that's where I grew up.
Right. So about 22 years now in Kelowna. Any regrets? And have you tried to leave since?
No regrets. I mean, man, have you looked outside? Well, other than Smokanogan right now, or the last month, which has been horrible. Absolutely no regrets as far as loving where I live. Wintertime is a little dismal, but that's what airplanes are for, and Big White. But I did leave actually for 2 years. And we can get into that story later, but I moved to the Silicon Valley. Wow. For 2 years. I started a tech company. It was sold to one of our big competitors in the Bay Area, and moved there. And then when my handcuffs came off of the place that I was at, I asked my family where they wanted to move. They can move anywhere, and they chose to come back to the Okanagan. Nice.
So was that in 2001? And tell us what Silicon Valley is like. What's it like living there?
Yeah. So that was, so I started my first company in 2001, which was totally random. Again, I went from selling furniture to selling steel things that were put together for oil and forestry and trucks. And then I started a technology company, which I didn't own a computer, called Your Tech Online. And it was all about fixing computers remotely over the internet. In 2001, that was a big deal, right? Yeah. Enterprises could do it, but consumers could not. So we ended up building a business that essentially allowed people to work from home. All our people work from home. And we believed in kind of the Navy SEAL of computer repair. And so we hired the best of the best, and you could call in and get your computer fixed online. We ended up doing work with Staples, Shaw, Home Depot, and all of that. And we ended up selling it in 2008. And I moved to the Silicon Valley in 2008 with my family.
Right.
That is a geek's playground. It was a fantastic place to live. If you're building a technology company, you absorb so much information in such a short period of time. The culture is incredible as far as people wanting to help people build technology companies. But the lifestyle, I would say, although San Francisco is a beautiful place to live, the lifestyle isn't ideal. Everybody's driving towards the bigger house, the faster car, just money. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I love all those things, but I just felt it was very imbalanced. And the conversation was always, the first conversation is, where do you live? And it wasn't where do you live because they were interested if you live close to me. It was where do you live because that determines your status of how I'm going to treat you. Neighborhoods. Yeah. And that was very different from Canada, where, you know, the school that you went to, your school that your kids went to, was very determined on, again, you know, do our kids get to play together? Mm-hmm. Whereas in Canada or in Kelowna, it's very different. And that's one of the things that I'm really thankful for about living in Canada. Mm-hmm. Is our education system is pretty amazing. Yeah. As it went, you know, some people that have never lived outside thinks it sucks, but you know, when you come from or went to another place, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about your tech online. Did you start this by yourself from scratch, or did you have investors?
So I started it on my own. There was another guy involved that actually came up with the idea. His name was Mike, and a couple other guys that I wanted to get that wanted to get involved. And at the time, I don't know if I ever said this publicly, but whatever, who cares? We actually got to be a little careful, maybe, but we came up with this idea of, you know, 4 of us were going to build this technology company. None of us have ever built a tech company before, knew nothing about it. And when it came down to who was going to invest money, I was the only one that was willing to put money into the business.
Right.
I didn't have money. So the only way I could get money was to lie about an application to a bank to get a line of credit.
Interesting.
And they ended up giving me a line of credit. Hey, they got paid back. They did really well, so I don't feel bad about it.
Right.
And I borrowed lots of money from them, and the bank is very thankful for me today. Yes. But, you know, as an entrepreneur, like, how do I make this work? Mm-hmm. So it was like doing whatever I could possible to start the company. Yeah. And it was a struggle for 8 years. Wow. And we did have investors, but we only raised about $1 million. So it was mostly angel investment and friends and family, and I'm very thankful for those people as well.
Yeah.
So
everybody was able to cash out.
Everybody cashed out. Everybody did well. I'm again thankful for that, and happy that it was a good outcome, because a lot of the times those businesses aren't.
Right.
And it's a lot of risk.
Yeah. So, well, statute of limitations has passed, I'm sure. I don't know if you were following the Paul Manafort case, but they got him on, making incorrect statements, let's say, on bank applications, but 5-6 years ago. So I think you got to go 10 years or something, and then you're in the clear. And if you paid them back, it's all
15. They're fine. They're fine.
So you said it was only $1 million. I think probably for a lot of small-time tech guys or guys that are just starting out, they have a concept, probably sounds like a lot. I know in Silicon Valley it's like tiny money, but tell us what you know about raising capital through angel investors. If someone's got a product, a software product, how do they get $1 million?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, and it's different now than it was back then. I mean, with the current company that I'm involved with, we've raised about $18 million, I think, US dollars. Mm-hmm. And so it's very different when you're raising angel investment versus venture capital. Mm-hmm. And so I think today the most important thing is obviously you got to believe in what you do. People invest in people.
Right.
And the way I look at it is why would I invest in you when times get tough? Like, sure, you can paint me this big, beautiful picture of opportunity, but when times get tough, why are you going to continue building this business?
Right.
And a lot of the times there's not enough there, there's not enough reason why this is critically important to you. Mm-hmm. And explaining your why. Not a lot of people can explain the opportunity like, I have this great idea and we can make billions of dollars because this, but why is that important to you? Well, it's not really critical. I could live without it, right. But it'd be interesting.
Yeah.
And so you have to, if you're going to build a business and raise money, you got to have that there where it's like, I will do it without you. Mm-hmm. And people will invest when they know that there's fear of missing out. Mm-hmm. Right. So they're like, oh crap, like he's going to do this. Mm-hmm. And if I don't give him 50 grand or 100 grand or 250 grand or $1 million, that's the fear of losing out. And that's when that's the point when you can raise money and at a good valuation, I think.
Yeah, for sure. So what is the basic difference between an angel investor and a venture capitalist?
Well, an angel investor is typically an individual that, may or may not have a high net worth, but an angel investor is somebody that is typically somebody that's getting in early stage in your business. So you haven't really maybe created the full baked out product. Maybe it's still in prototype. Who knows? Maybe it's just an idea. Mm-hmm. But I don't advise or never would invest in a company that somebody just has an idea and, hey, let's go do this. So give me 100 grand.
Right.
Would never do that.
They've got a business plan. And
even a business plan. Like somebody said to me the other day, is like a friend called and says, Steve, I need your advice on building a business plan. I'm like, business plans are bullshit. Like nobody invests in a business plan. Like that's old school thinking. Like why would you create a 30-page document? Yeah, you have to have a plan. But you don't create this 30-page document of how you're going to build this business, because I can promise you it will never happen that way. Right. So you have to have a plan or scaffolding to be able to understand where you're going. But you got to be able to be nimble and flexible to be able to understand the market to direction that you're going. So first they have to show viability. Mm-hmm. Is there a market there that's big enough? Mm-hmm. And what is that? Again, what's your why? And who are you? And those are typically enough to mm-hmm. be able to get somebody on board to invest. But that would be the angel investment side. So the smaller funding, you got angel rounds or super angel rounds or seed rounds or whatever you want to call those entry points into your business, where it's like seeding your business to actually get it started. Mm-hmm. Then you get into the venture side, where it's typically institutional side, larger funds that are kind of swinging for the fences and want big wins. Right. And so that's when you get into maybe your super, like we raised what's called a super seed round. These round variations are crap anyways. Like I have a friend, Paul Singh, who says like never name your round. But, a super seed round, and then there's a Series A and Series B and Series C or whatever, and those all determine on your stages. And that's when venture cap kind of comes in and they write bigger checks. Right. But the stakes are higher, mm-hmm. right? And they're typically board members, or they typically are wanting more. And
so they'll put someone on the board.
Typically, typically, and depends on the scenario and the deal and all of those things. So it's never a cookie cutter type thing. It all depends on what negotiation looks like. But I look at money, no matter whether it's angel or venture money, everybody has the same color of dollar. Right. A dollar is a dollar, no matter if you get it from that guy or that gal. So you have to understand how to take good money or smart money, mm-hmm. and what does that look like. And that's the hardest thing to find. Because when your deal is really good, mm-hmm. everybody wants to give you money. Right. So it's like, whose money do I determine who to take? And sometimes you can get money cheaper from the dumb guy than you can from the smart guy. Right. And so it's a real challenge on trying to figure out is, where do you take the money from? Who do you take it from? Why do you take it from them? Those types of things is always a challenge, but mm-hmm. Good problems to have if you're building a good business.
Right. So I think our perception of venture capitalists is they're kind of like sharks. And if you're someone with not a lot of experience, if this is your first venture, you might get taken advantage of. So is there some sort of a formula? Like, how many shares do you give for $1 million? Like, how do you calculate that? Are there books you can read, or are you just kind of flying by the seat of your pants the first time you do a deal like this?
Mm-hmm. I don't think there's a formula out there. I mean, there are some basic rules, I think. But ultimately, if you're going in this and you're looking at that, first thing, like, surround yourself with a lot of people that know what they're doing. Because there isn't a formula of how it's done.
Right.
And yeah, VCs can sometimes be known as sharks, but good VCs aren't.
Right.
Good VCs legitimately want you to be successful.
Right.
You, as the founder, need you to be successful.
Right.
Because if you end up working for them, then you lost your reason to be there. And so good money wants to make sure you're looked after as a founder, no matter if it's angel or not, because an angel could screw up your cap table at the beginning and make it impossible for you to raise any additional money because they think that they're going to be like, it's just you got to be really careful and ask really good questions. And the only way you do that is, again, there's some books like Brad Feld and stuff like that. There's lots of good books out there, but again, those aren't, it's not cookie cutter.
Right.
It depends on the scenario and what you're trying to achieve, and what your end game is. You often you have to look at your end game and kind of backwards schedule out, what that result is, and hope you're freaking right.
Right.
Because if you're wrong, and again, it's not just your business; it's your cap table. If your cap table's screwed up, it doesn't matter how good your business is. You can't recap everything and devalue stuff, and if you do, a lot of people are going to be pissed, and that makes it complicated. So there's a lot of moving pieces. So you have to really, have a lot of really good advisors that have done it before to ensure. And not even saying that they're going to do it right, but at least you go into it knowing ahead of time.
If a venture capitalist injects money into a project, what do they typically expect for turnaround time? Is it pretty fast these days, or?
Yeah, I guess it depends what you call fast, and it depends on what stage you're in,
right?
And all that. But
it was 10 years for your tech online from founding to cashing.
Right,
out.
Right. And I think that. Again, it depends on the business, on the type of business. Like now I'm in the education space, and those are longer tails of return. And then, there's stuff where, returns happen in short periods of time, and that's great. But typically, I don't know, I want to say 5 to 7 years is kind of typical, but who knows? It's all over the map because... Yeah, I mean, if you could predict that, that would be, everybody would be trillionaires because billionaires aren't a big deal anymore. So you have to be a trillionaire. But yeah, I think it varies all over the map. One of the things that the other thing that I do on the side, so when I moved back from California, one of the things I was really passionate about was entrepreneurship and the struggles that I went through at Your Tech Online. I felt very alone. Yeah. The tech industry here in the Okanagan was not developed at all. I mean, back in those days, we didn't even have Accelerate Okanagan or anything like that. I think we started an organization called OzTech, the Okanagan Science and Technology something, and it was very much in its infancy. But when I moved back from California, it was like, when you're living in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, and you literally walked into Starbucks or anywhere and you could hear people pitching their idea, or VCs at one table and startup guys at another table. And this was a Monday. Right. It was a Monday at 2:00. That's what happened. Yeah. And then I moved back here. It was like breaks. Right. Not much happened. Yeah. I was like, oh my God, crickets. Yeah. And so I was really bored.
Right.
And so I went to Robert Fine, who now is at the City of Kelowna as economic development, but was at the regional district economic development, and I knew Robert okay, but we become really good friends over the years. And I said, Robert, I want to get involved in the community, but if I'm going to get involved, this is what I'd like to do. And if anybody knows me, I love having fun. I love drinking wine. And I love interacting and communicating with people. So I said, why don't I bring a bunch of my friends up from the Silicon Valley? We'll hang out, go on a houseboat. We'll invite a couple of entrepreneurs, and we'll just kind of rub shoulders and chat, because I believe businesses are built on relationships. And people do business with people they like.
Yes.
So until you like them, you're not going to pitch them. Right? So I'm not going to invest. I'm not going to introduce you to somebody that I know until I know that I like you.
Right.
Why would I do that? I mean, it's my reputation or your reputation, exactly. Right? So we created this thing called MetaBridge, and we brought these people up from the Bay Area. And the first year there was 30 people. We fit everybody on a houseboat, and that was in 2008. Now in 2010. We are arguably the largest event of its kind in the nation. We have 150 applications come in per year. We only accept 15 from across the country.
So 15 entrepreneurs.
50 entrepreneurs. 15. Yeah.
And then you've got venture capitalists and people who could be mentors.
Yeah. So exactly. So what we do is we bring the best entrepreneurs, or what we feel are the best entrepreneurs with growing, cool, awesome tech businesses. And then we bring in these rock star people like VCs or entrepreneurs that from the Bay Area that have built and sold companies for $200 and $500 million. And we bring them all together to kind of rub shoulders and hang out. And we do that in wineries, and we do that on boats, and we do that on a golf course. And I have a friend that brings a helicopter in, and we put people on top of mountains. We just create great experiences for people because we live in the Okanagan, which is awesome. And most of the people that come from the Bay Area go, why would I come all the way to there? I'm like, just come, you'll see. Right. And they love it here, of course.
Yeah.
And
I bet they're pretty surprised.
They're so surprised. I mean, it's hard to get here from there.
Yeah.
Like
couple of flights,
two flights, and if you miss a connection, it sucks and blah, blah, blah. But once they're here, they go, wow, this is amazing. And then, of course, you bring all these entrepreneurs in from across the country as well and say, wow, you guys got a great growing tech community here. We have the new Okanagan Innovation Center now. So it's really thriving tech community, albeit small. It's still a thriving tech community. So we've been doing that for 10 years, and it's just been incredible. We have a waiting list every single year because we only allow a certain number of people to come. So it's invitation only.
Right.
And I just believe in creating experiences for people. And when you create experiences, people want to do business with you, right?
For sure.
Like, who wants to be in a boring office with no windows,
right?
Having meetings all day?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want to do that on a boat?
Well, exactly.
And why don't we do that on a boat?
Luke Mankus is a realtor with RE/MAX Kelowna. He loves what he does. We asked Luke if he had any regrets about moving here in 2011, and he always says, yeah, one regret, and that is he didn't move here sooner. When Luke came here, he didn't know anyone. He didn't know the neighborhoods or anything or anyone besides his daughter, who was 6 years old at the time. So he knows what it's like. Now, he's an expert and has helped well over 100 single people, couples, families, and investors with their real estate needs in the Okanagan. If you're new to our beautiful city, Luke can help you get connected with great lawyers, dentists, carpenters, landscapers, swimming pool installers, you name it. And whether you're new to Kelowna or not, Luke knows real estate. He can help you find a great property, negotiate a good deal, and hold your hand all the way through the process until the day you get your shiny new set of keys. Luke is known as a no-pressure kind of guy. He's had clients where it took even a year or more to get them into a property. He just doesn't believe in rushing things. On the other hand, when you decide it's time to act, he's diligent and he'll work day and night until the job is done. Give Luke Mankus a call or a text message at any time. 778-215-4273. Again, that's 778-215-4273. 778-215-4273 to chat with Luke about real estate.
I grew up in Toronto, and my dad said he made some of his best deals on the golf course. He was a big fan of golf. And he said, you get to know someone. You see how they react under pressure, right? You see if they cheat and all that stuff. So for him, golf was the thing. But I think the Okanagan gives so many opportunities to do stuff that are fun. So you're the organizer, but do you participate in any of these deals, or are you mostly just connecting people?
Yeah, so I've participated in some. Mm-hmm. They vary over the last 10 years of what I've been involved in. But most of all, I'm the connector. Because again, there's a lot of good deals, lots of really good deals that happen in Meadowbridge. And, we have a history, I think Sarah would kill me if I told the number wrong, but I think it's like $180 million that's been raised over the 10 years from the companies. And I think there's 15 or 17 exits that have happened of our companies that we've picked. Not specifically because of Meadowbridge, but it just shows that we're picking good entrepreneurs that eventually get exits or raise money.
Right.
So we know how to pick good companies, but it doesn't mean I invest in those companies because I don't know some of those spaces. Like, I don't understand the security space. I don't understand the gaming space. So I'm not going to invest in it because I don't understand it.
Right.
And I think a lot of our VCs will say the same thing. Mm-hmm. Just because you have a great idea doesn't mean I'm going to lay cash down if they don't understand your business and they can't provide value. And again, that's the difference between good money and bad money.
Yeah.
Is can they provide value other than the money that they lend you?
Right.
And unfortunately, a lot of entrepreneurs don't think about that. They're just strictly raising money. And I think that is a very poor way of looking at money raising.
Yeah.
Very poor.
Definitely.
Most entrepreneurs aren't prepared or understand the subtleties of raising money. Mm-hmm. They think it's just going out and barfing out their idea and thinking that you should just invest.
Right.
And it's not that at all.
It's not that at all.
No.
Yeah. Well, it's like Warren Buffett says, his basic formula for investing, and he is probably the most successful pure investor on the planet. He has to understand the business, and he has to have confidence in the directors, the people running the business. So he has to know and like those people, and he has to understand the business model deeply before he'll write a check for anything. So makes sense. So do you have these guys that come from Silicon Valley? Is it mostly the same guys every year, or is there some overlap?
Yeah, so good question. So it's kind of a third, and a third.
Yeah.
A third of our alumni return because they just provide so much massive value. Third,
they're enjoying it too.
Oh my God! So again, our biggest problem right now is because we have a capacity issue. Is a waiting list, both from the Silicon Valley and from startups.
Wow!
So it's a great problem to have, we're thankful for it. But it's like, so how do we grow that? So a third come back, a third kind of rotate in and out, and a third are new. Mm-hmm. And then we also have a third that are VCs or money guys or gals. I got to be careful when I say guys because I don't mean guys. Diversity is a big thing at Meadowbridge as well. So people or humans, and then we have a third money, a third C-level executives. So people from Facebook and LinkedIn and Salesforce and Microsoft. And then a third are entrepreneurs that are kind of been there, done that. And so we kind of try to keep that balance.
Yeah.
One of the things that we don't want to be known as is a place where people just come and think they're just going to raise money.
Right.
Because, again, there's more about building a business than raising money. It's building an actual business. How about you do that?
Right.
You know? And a lot of entrepreneurs, especially tech entrepreneurs, focus more on raising money than building their business. And that frustrates them out of me. Like, it just frustrates me. And those are the ones we try to filter out right away.
Right. For sure.
And but yeah, it's a dance a little bit, but yeah, I would encourage people. We try to do some public things for MetaBridge. The big event happens in June, usually the first or second week in June. And then we have little MetaBridge minis across the country and down into the Bay Area throughout the year, just to keep momentum and build it.
Nice. That's great. So you're into education. You've got 2 children, and you're on the Dean's Advisory Council at Simon Fraser University. Tell us about your passion for education.
Well, it's interesting for me when people ask that question. And it's funny because I am in K-12 education space now. I've been doing this for 7 years. Absolutely love what I do. And I think this is a life mission for me, is education and changing education, the way we're educating our kids today versus the way we got educated and our parents' parents got educated. Started it with my co-founder, Lane Merrifield, who a lot of people will know. He was one of the founders of Club Penguin. Okay. And now one of the Dragons on Dragons Den this year. Cool guy. And both of us kind of came together with different ideas around what we believed in needed to change. And he has his story. But my story is, I do have 2 kids. One is she's 20, going in her second year of university at UBCO. Fine arts. She was the compliant child. So she was the child that got great marks. Teacher asked her a question. She would put up her hand. She would give the answer, put it down. It was like this. She played school really well. Right. She did school well. I have a 13-year-old son. Remember, I started this 7 years ago. So this was back, when he was in second grade. And I was just really frustrated, mostly with him of, he would constantly come home with a report card that said he sucked at school. Oh. Right? Like a report card that wasn't glowing. Faith, my daughter, would come home with a report card that was like all A's, lay it on the table and go, "You're welcome, Dad. I am the best kid ever." Right? And she didn't do that. But it was like she was proud to bring it home. Of course she is. She's good at it. But then I have a son that's not proud to bring it home. Not because he sucks and he's not smart. It's because he doesn't do traditional school well. And so we don't reward kids like that. We tell them they're not good at it. And I tell people, if you were told 4 times a year for 12 years that you weren't good at your job, how long would you stay? But we do that to kids every single day. We tell kids, "You're not good at it. You're not good at it. You're not good at it." And eventually they believe it. Yeah. And that drives me insane. And so back up 20 plus years ago when I was in school, I was that same kid. I was my son, and I was watching this happen. I'm like, that's me, that's me, that's me. And I dropped out of school in 11th grade. And everybody thought that I was going to be, washing dishes at Pizza Hut. Yeah. And guess what I did? I went and built a business. I went and sold a business. I did things that other people dream of, they wish they could do. Yeah. I hire the accountants and the lawyers and the programmers and all the people that went to school, and that's great. They can do those things. But what I'm trying to tell my kids is, don't conform to what it is that society tells you you should do. Dream about what you should do, and stop putting kids into a box and tell them, well, you need to learn this, 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 and this. I'm like, that's crap. I was told 4 times a year that I was bad at what I did, and I started believing that. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go somewhere where people believe in what I do, and I do it well. So what did I do well? I sold furniture. I worked part-time and I did that really well. So why wouldn't I go there? And I get paid for it.
Right.
And so that's what I want my kids to do. And I think that's what a lot of kids, now the kids that do well in school, great, let them do school and let them do it well. But a good chunk of our kids, 50%. So if you broke it out onto a Bell scale, 0 to 100, we praise the kids on the upper 50% side, and we tell the kids that they're worth nothing on the lower 50% side. And we even show them in school, right? We put them in different classrooms. We put them places where they're told socially that they're not as good as those kids. That is absolute, utter ridiculous. Why are we doing that? And so the belief in what we are is like, why can't we allow kids to show what they know? And rather than taking a test on October 15th, writing it down and saying, oh, that's your mark in life, by the way. So you're good at taking a test. I'm not. Right. And so I get penalized because I don't test that way. Ask me the question and I'll give you the answer. But no, I had to write it down. Well, I have dyslexia and dysgraphia, so I couldn't write it down. Yeah. And nobody ever diagnosed that, but it's like, Steve, you can't write, so we're giving you an F. It's like, did you ever check to see why I couldn't write? But no, they didn't.
Oh, yeah.
And so Fresh Grade is all about that ability to capture what the kid knows and show growth over time versus marking them on a percentage. Right. And so at the beginning of the year, so I always say if you were a student and you got 9 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 9 out of 10, I would say there's no growth there. Right. But if you were a student that went from 2 out of 10 to 4 out of 10 to 6 out of 10 to 7 out of 10, I would say, wow, that student is growing. But no, we don't tell that to that student. We say, you need some work. Yeah. And this kid that, can do it in his sleep gets straight A's and also gets an award and walks across the stage and say, you're awesome. Right. And we tell these kids that struggle and work their ass off because they their brain doesn't work that way. And we tell them they're not good enough. We talked about this, like, you didn't graduate from school either. Right. I mean, I just think of all those kids that we tell that they're not good enough. And I go, this has got to stop, especially in this age where my kids don't need to go to school anymore. You know why? Because you can learn it on freaking YouTube.
That's right.
So they can consume information. And I was talking to a superintendent the other day. He goes, yeah, but you don't know what's accredited or not. Great. Make it accredited. Like, there goes through a process, make it accredited, verified by whatever. And now they can learn it when they want, how they want, if they want.
Definitely.
So why do our kids need to go to school? You know why? Because it's important for social interaction. Yes. It's important for communication and community. Yeah. And we need to build that inside our schools and allow kids to solve problems rather than saying, put your phone away. We're going to learn the provinces of Canada. Put your phone away. Like, why? Freaking YouTube it or Google it. Right. It doesn't matter. Right. Like, here's a map of Canada. Color it and then write the provinces down. And by the way, if you go outside the lines on the color, I'm going to deduct you marks. Yeah. So is this a coloring class or is it a geography class or what is it? And we've lost the sense of learning in our classrooms.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing to help rectify this issue.
Right. So what we've created is a software platform that allows for teachers and students to be able to capture learning in real time in the classroom with devices. So they can capture it through video or through pictures or through documentation, upload it to their personal portfolio. So we're big believers in, again, that growth over time, not a single letter in November, January, and May. It should be able to show growth. So they can do that. And the cool thing about that is now the parent actually can be involved in that conversation. So the parent gets a a download of the app, and they get push notified of what's happening with their child day to day. So when your kid comes home from school and you ask them, what did you do in school today? You don't get a blank stare or the nothing conversation. You can actually have a conversation with your child. Mm-hmm. But more importantly, out of that is you create something called critical thinking skills, mm-hmm. where the child actually has to reflect and talk about the learning. Like, it's like, well, we did math. Well, why? Well, we don't know. Like, but we taught our kids not to know. It's just like, well, I know my times tables.
Right.
So why is that important? I don't know.
Right.
Right? Like, so go find out why it's important, and let's talk about that conversation and where it can be used. And Fresh Grade allows that to happen, where you have ongoing dialogue.
Nice.
And so you're constantly up to date. So teachers are telling us. I was in parent-teacher interviews a couple years ago, and a teacher said to me, Steve, we don't need to do parent-teacher interviews anymore. You guys already know what's going on. And the most important thing about that time with the teacher is we're not talking about what happened for the last 2 months, mm-hmm. because we already know as parents. We're talking about what Noah needs to do for the next 3 months. Mm-hmm. And there's because you only have 15 minutes with the teacher, so there's a very different dynamic to the conversation when you're in the teacher's office or classroom. Of you're not talking about, well, Noah didn't hand in this, and this. You're talking about Noah needs to work on these skills, because we can see in his portfolio where he's struggling.
Nice.
And so we have about 50 employees here in Kelowna. Wow. We have an office in Vancouver as well. We touch about just over 60 or 65% of the student population in British Columbia use Fresh Grade today. And I think I think all of the school districts in the province use Fresh Grade at some capacity, just not K to 12.
Okay. All right. So if there is an educator listening to this, or a parent, how do they find out about Fresh Grade?
I mean, you can go to freshgrade.com and check it out. As an educator, the educator is empowered. They can go and look and download Fresh Grade free as an app. I would encourage them to talk to their admin, to see, especially in British Columbia, or frankly anywhere in Canada, if their admin are using Fresh Grade and how they can start using it. Mm-hmm. It will change kids' lives. I've seen it in my family. It's amazing. Often I get pretty emotional about it, because mm-hmm. when Noah comes home and he says, Dad, have you gone and looked at my video yet? Mm-hmm. I'm like, no, buddy, I haven't. He goes, Dad, you need to go and look. He goes, but first, go watch the video at the beginning of September, then watch the video in June. And he goes, Dad, I'm getting so much better at reading because I can hear it.
Yeah. Nice.
And you know what's cool about that is he sees that. But traditionally, he would have got a letter grade. Yeah. Saying he's not good.
Right.
And then he would have got another letter grade at the end of the year and saying he's getting better. And he goes, nah.
But no idea what happened.
No idea. Yeah. And now he's like, oh, Dad, I'm gonna go ask Faith if she can take me to the library.
Nice.
And those are moments when you go, that is what school should be about. Yeah. I don't care about grades. I literally don't care about grades. Mm-hmm. I actually don't anymore. I tell the principal, report cards do not come home with my kids.
Right.
If my kids cannot tell me what they know, that's a problem for me.
Right.
Because when I go to my job, I don't walk into my boss's office. Well, I don't have one, but I don't walk into, an employee doesn't walk in ever, and I say, tell me your grade.
Right.
Tell me specifically on a scale of 1 to 100 where you are. Mm-hmm. We don't do that. So why do we do that to our kids?
It's crazy.
It's stupid.
It is.
Stupid. Clearly, I'm not passionate about this stuff.
Steve, it's a great conversation. I'd like to get you back again in the near future, because we could talk for hours on so many great topics here. But I want to thank you for your time today. And I'm wondering if you would like to nominate someone to come on the show in the future, someone name escapes me, recommended that you come on the show. And he was a tech guy. Totally forgot him. But the way we're kind of growing this show is I asked someone just off the top of your head, anyone in the city, could be in any type of business or field that you would like to hear from on the show in the future.
The first guy that comes to mind is a good friend and a guy that I consider a friend and a mentor, and his name's Jeff Keen.
Okay.
Jeff is Keen.
Great.
And if you go downtown on the corner of Doyle and Ellis, there's a 6-story building there called the Okanagan Center of Innovation.
Yes.
And Jeff was instrumental in pulling that building together as a community, right? I remember 8 years ago when we sat in a room and Jeff brought the mayors and the MPs and the MLAs and from all over the Okanagan. We put them in a room. It's like, guys, or people, right, we need to focus and talk about how we're going to set up something for our kids and be meaningful in the world. Yeah. For technology and innovation. And Jeff was the guy that came up with the idea of Okanagan Innovation Center, and it's freaking awesome. Great. So you need to have Jeff on the show.
Great.